Welcome to second part of how to play Cannonball rag tutorial. Today we'll focus on picking hand, as we have covered all the necessary chords in the first video of the series. So if you'd like to check it out, follow the link in the description, and we'll just get straight to it and have a look at thumb work and the melody, how it's being done with our picking hand. First chord is E7 with E in the bass, and as I mentioned in previous video, we'll use alternating bass by putting the thumb over guitar neck over 7th fret. So we'll have a ragtime picking pattern by using only thumb on bass string and two middle strings G and D. So this is our comping pattern, and now let's have a look at the fingers, and first two strings, what's gonna happen in there. So the picking pattern will repeat over a couple of first chords. It will remain the same. All that will change is a left hand's position and the chords. But in general, the picking pattern and the melody and the rolls, and that's going to happen in there, will remain roughly the same. So this is how the first section is going to look. This is our first chord, and first two melody notes. I'll break it down to single strum, single hits, what comes with what, and how to superimpose, how to put the melody over this comping pattern. We'll start with single bass note played by thumb, and then with two middle strings, we hit first string with our index finger. The tricky part is that we're hitting two middle strings with a single strum of a thumb pick, and at the same time we play the melody note, so it's like a pinching movement of a picking hand. We aim to make the chord on two middle strings and melody happen at roughly at the same time. It's good to practice just this first movement. Bass note, chord with melody. Let's move on onto following notes in this phrase. Again, we'll have thumb on its own, just a bass note, and this time with our chord strum we'll have second string. Again, I use my index finger. Now let's play it a couple of times, the whole thing. So bass, chord with first string, bass on 7th fret, chord with second string. And again, bass, first string and chord, bass on 7th fret, chord and second string. And now let's try to smoothly play it around a couple of times. After that, we'll make a little roll to make the whole melody sound a little bit more interesting. So everything that's happening in here is that I shift the rhythm, it's more syncopated. And that's basically what brings the whole ragtime feel to the tune. And again, I'll try to break it down. This time we'll start with bass note and first string. Right after that, we'll play second string. So it's bass note with first string and second string on its own. And after that, we'll have chord. And playing the chord section, playing those two middle strings, we'll automatically receive this kind of rolling sound. First, second, and third string, but it's not played by individual strums of our melody fingers. It's just a part of our comping chord. So the whole roll is bass note with first string simultaneously, second string, chord, and right after the chord, it's a first string. So it's these are even 8 notes. And right after the first string, we have bass note on 7th fret played with thumb over. And after that, chord. Now let's try to play the whole first phrase. And we'll play it over and over. I'll try to play it a little bit slower. And the next thing is we're moving to A6 chord, and we'll basically have exactly the same picking pattern. The only difference is that we'll start with a bass note already with thumb over the 5th fret. So this is our A note that will alternate with open E string. So on E7 chord we had going E, open, fretted, open, fretted. This time it's going to be fretted, open, open. But the picking pattern is exactly the same. So exactly the same pattern applies. We had bass note, melody with chord, bass note, melody with chord on 2nd string, and the roll. So the only thing that is different is a chord. And now we'll move to D9 chord. And because we're starting with 5th string, the note D, root bass note of the chord is on 5th string, we'll have to strum our 5th string, and at this point we can leave the alternating bass out, because this will require modification of the chord, but at some point you can try to apply the alternating bass. If you don't do it, it's not a big deal. Nice to have it there, but if it would compromise anything else going on, you can leave it out at this point of learning the tune. But the tricky thing is that the melody will be a little bit different and will alter the top of the chord by moving top note on the 1st string, 5th, 6th and 7th fret. So the phrase starting with D9 chord will look like this. This time we're starting with bass note, chord with melody, bass note, melody on 2nd string with chord, and we're going on to the roll. Again, first 2 strings and chord will form a roll. So we have bass, chord with melody, bass, chord with melody on 2nd string, roll, and doing the roll will require to add the note on the top of the chord. It sounds weird because this note is very tense. It will resolve to our 13 of the chord, but because it's a syncopated note, we can call it a passing tone, a chromatic note that's out of the chord. It's there for tension, but it will finally get resolved to one of the chord notes. So I'll try to break it down, the whole roll thing and the passing note. So we'll have bass note right after that, bass note with melody on the 1st string, 2nd string, strum over 2 middle strings, bass note with 6th fret on 1st string, first string, bass note, and 7th fret on 1st string. As you can hear, the passing note is between chord and bass. So we'll have and this stretchy chord resolves to A6. So let's have a look again at the D9 to D13 chord section. And we'll go to G6 chord. And in here we have just bass chord with no alternating bass. And basically we're doing the same roll that we've done previously. So there is a bass note, melody with chord, bass note, melody with chord, and roll. Which is bass note with first string, second string, chord, and again first string. And right after the first string we have bass notes, so it's the whole roll looks like that. Let's have a look at the whole thing, because this is basically our first A that is being repeated twice. And we'll move to another section starting with the 7 chord, but let's review what we have in here. So this is the whole thing. I'll play it once more slowly, so you can pause the video, you can rewind and see what's going on with picking hand. And the chord shapes are in the previous video, so check it out if there are any doubts what chords I'm playing in here. But in general, these are the 4 inversions of quite common chords, starting with E7 to A9 to D9 to G6. There is one more thing that we can add right in front of the A section, which are 3 starting notes. So it's G, F sharp, G. 5th fret on D string, 4th, and back. And it's good to play those notes just with your middle finger, because then it's going to be those 3 notes will lead us straight to the chord. Now we'll move on to B section, and we'll start with D7 chord. Okay, let's break the whole thing down. This is our D7 chord, and in original Merle Travis version, what Merle did was just sliding the note on the 3rd fret. But it was Merle, and sometimes it's a little bit hard to keep this note ringing. I prefer to strum it with my finger. But first things first, let's have a look at the picking pattern and the notes that are in the melody. So the whole trick about this chord is to keep the first string ringing underneath the chord. So this is my D7 shape and first string, because this first string will be used in melody. What we have in here is D, D sharp and E, 3 notes that go up chromatically. And they are part of our comping of our comping pattern. So again, here there is no urgent need to use alternating bass. We can leave our thumb where it is. So it's 5th string, 2 middle strings, 5th string, 2 middle strings, and the rhythm pattern is a little bit tricky. There is again some signature ragtime syncopation that is quite significant for the tune, and it's also a little bit tricky because we're putting certain rhythms that are again in between our chord and bass note. So we'll start by playing melody with bass note. Then there is our shifting chord. We move our index finger from 3rd fret to 4th fret and play chord. So it's first string with bass, second string with bass, chord with 2nd string, and again bass note with 1st string. And after the melody note, there's a chord, so we'll have and again. And after that, we'll have the same melody, but shifted in rhythm. This was our first pass. So right after the bass note, we have another strum of 2nd string. Again, our 10th note passing tone that will lead us onto the chord tone, 9 of the chord. As you'll probably notice, usually those 10th notes are syncopated. They are somewhere in between bass and chord tone. So this is the second pass of the D7 section. So it's 2 quick strums of 2nd string, 1 with bass, 1 on its own. Then there's another tricky thing. We have 2nd string. Then there is a chord on its own, and after the chord we have 1st string, so it's so we have everything alternating. Here we have the situation where there's a bass note and a melody note at the same time. Then there's just a melody note, chord, and melody. And after the melody note on the 1st string, there's a bass note again. And I'll play it a couple of times slower. Now we'll move into G chord, and there's exactly the same situation. We'll have same melody, but the chord changes. Well, instead of G7, we'll have G major. And again, we move our bass note to 6th string. We use thumb to play G bass note on our 6th string. And again, no need for the alternating bass note, although it could be done, but it will be a little bit tricky. We'd have to put our ring finger flat on 2 strings and watch out to not to dampen the adjacent strings, higher and lower strings above and below, and the ring finger. So we'll do the same shift in melody, same rhythm, first straight and second syncopated. To avoid this dissonant notes ringing over each other, before I play my open E string, I move my index finger back where it belongs with G major chord. And it's back on 3rd fret. Then in the form of the song we have same thing with D7 chord. And then there is a killer lick that I explained in one of my Twinkle Licks video, but if you're too busy or too lazy to check it out, I'll break it down for you right now. Okay, what is going on in here? Basically, this is one of the very old techniques in terms of note choices. We have G6 chord, but it's being spread onto open strings, and some of the notes of the chord are approached half step below. So we could imagine that we have a G major chord or G6 chord, and we're breaking it down to 2 strings, first 2 strings. These are the notes. Then so it's like having G major or G6 chord and approaching all the starting notes from half step below. But to keep it rolling with our fingers, we'll spread those notes onto 3 strings at all times. So because we want to start with C sharp, and there is no other way of playing C sharp, D and G than putting C sharp on G string on 6th fret and playing just 3 strings, 3rd, 2nd and 1st. So we have partial bar on first 2 strings on 3rd fret, pinky on 6th fret, 3rd string, and this is our roll. Then all we fret is 3rd string on 3rd fret, and we play 3rd string with thumb, index finger on 2nd string, middle finger on 1st string. Now let's play just those 2 elements over and over. Okay, there are just 2 rolls left. And this is 4th fret on D string, 3rd open and 2nd open. And the last one is gonna be almost the same thing, just shifted 1 string towards the ceiling. So it's 4th fret on 5th string, open D, open G. And we'll end up with big nice G on E string on 3rd fret. Okay, I'll play this lick a couple of times. What's important, we have this sort of 3/4 feel because there are groupings of 3 notes that are played as straight 8 notes, so it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 3 and 4. This way, we again get this sort of syncopated feel over straight 8 notes. But it's again against straight quarter notes, and the notes that we play are 8 notes. These are not triplets. There's nothing tricky about it. Only the melody changes, breaks that straight 8 rhythm, and adds this sort of syncopation, this sort of clave da 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 element onto it. And here is the part with plenty of chords, and starting with C major, most obvious C major, and we'll use the same picking pattern for all the chords, which will start with thumb on 5th string, and right after this thumb we'll have a second string played with index finger. So bass note, 2nd string, strum of the chord, 2 middle strings, and again 1st finger. And we'll apply some chord changes. C major, C sharp diminished. This is G major over D, E, C, C sharp diminished, G over D, E7, and here is the finishing turnaround, where we have A9 chord. We'll have bass note with the 3rd string and chord with 1st string. Then we move to D9 chord. And we'll have the same thing, bass note with 3rd string, chord with 1st. But we'll shift the rhythm again of the last note on D9 chord, and we'll make it syncopated. So it's gonna be, we have note with bass, chord, and 1st string. And the finishing chord is G6. Okay, so let's have a look at the whole section, starting with the C major chord. And as G6, I just strum all the strings. You can use thumb, you can use just index and thumb to strum all the strings, whatever works for you. Let's have a look at the whole thing, and we'll see how we can put this put the whole tune together. So we mentioned the break lick. And it would actually work really well at the beginning of the tune. And that's exactly what Duane Eddy does on his version of Cannonball Rag. It starts with this very lick on G6 chord. But then there's a little approach, little continuation of the intro lick. So what we have in here is G, 3rd fret of E6 string, and right after that, 3rd string, 3rd open string, then 1st fret on A string, hammer on to 2nd fret, then open D string, 2nd fret on D string, pull off, 3rd string. And now we'll try to smoothly link this intro lick onto rest of the song. So this is the whole thing. This is the whole had this intro A, and B of Cannonball Rag. This is how you play it roughly. And there are a couple of different things you can do. You can try to play alternating bass on the chords that are not that comfortable. For example, on D9, by moving middle finger from 5th to 6th string. On G chord, it's also perfectly doable, but it would require certain certain gymnastics with ring finger, just to make all string work. I have quite thick fingers and it's not that easy for me, but it's, you know, perfectly doable with a little practice. And yeah, in next video we'll take a look on how to build thumb independence, and if there is anything like thumb independence and finger picking. And it's going to be a boring series of exercises that might actually show how to build this ability to put any melody, any rhythm over comping thumb with alternating bass, and after a while it starts to feel like actually independent thumb, and we have perfect control over the rhythms that are played by fingers while keeping the driving comping thumb underneath. So I hope you're gonna make some good use of those tutorials, and well, hope you're gonna have a great evening and have a good time. See you next time.